Welcome to DB Online, a special presentation, an exclusive feature here on SportsTalkFlorida.com. I am David Baumann, joined by Eric Lopez, ELO, we call him, talking about the Miami Heat and their fans filing out before the dramatic overtime victory in Game 6 to stay alive. Sports Illustrated was all over it in regards to Heat fans leaving early and then trying to get back into the game. But too bad, once you leave, those tickets stay. You can't get back into the game. Oh, man, really a sad situation. Dan Le Batard was disgusted. He said he was embarrassed for that city. Dan Le Batard with a show on 790 and, of course, a television program on ESPN. It's hysterical. Victor Okendo of WPLG was basically providing updates as he was getting ready for a live shot on WPLG. Quote, fans streaming out, I'm going to throw up. Honestly embarrassing. I'm setting up for my live shot outside the arena, just watching fan after fan exit early. He continued, now I'm watching horrible, drunk, quitting fans desperately trying to get back in. This is madness. None of them deserve this. They are pounding on the glass doors. Cops finally here. Fans still pounding on the doors, begging to be let in. I was born and raised in Miami. I used to hate the national perspective against Heat fans, but I can't fight it anymore. Eric Lopez is from Miami. He doesn't have it on now, ladies and gentlemen, but he had a Heat hat on earlier, his champions hat. Two-time there it is. Two-time champions. Got it last year when the Heat won the NBA Finals. And Elo, they're still alive. Now, the Miami market, for example, is it the worst sports market in the country? And I'll take a lot of listener remarks that came through over our Twitter page at David Baumann 33. Elo.
Well, here's my argument. When I think of support, are the places packed when they're winning? Yeah, it's packed. Which you can't say that about Atlanta. When the Braves win, they don't sell out.
All right.
We can't say that about the Bucks recently with the regular season. They had a pretty decent year last year, and they were where were they? Ranked near the bottom in NFL attendance?
Second worst, 55,000
Second worst. I would also point out.
I don't think you can bring up Tampa, though.
Sure you can. They're terrible with the Bucks attendance. No excuse for that. And the Rays?
They've got a loyal Lightning following. You're right, though. The Rays criticism is legit. Those empty seats for those games for a team that's been probably the most exciting team in baseball over the last 5 years, that's atrocious. And you brought up Atlanta. We've got a lot of listeners who called into the program, and the David Baumann shows every weekday morning at 6. We had Michael call in from Orlando. He is originally from Philadelphia. He says, let's not forget about Philly. Philly's very, very passionate fan base, yet they are hot and cold, and they've
that's a very legitimate argument.
And Philly's always criticized for booing Santa Claus.
Yeah, and they're jerks. I mean, they boo Michael Irvin when he was down on the field. So I agree with them. They're mercifully. I think that's the definition of a terrible fan base. Just because, they support their team, but when it goes bad, they will turn on. They turned on Michael Jack Schmidt. So I think that's a valid argument. I would also point out the Los Angeles Dodgers, Game 1 against the Oakland A's, 1988, Kirk Gibson, the magical home run. And if you look at the footage, what do you see? You see people leaving out leaving the stadium. They're going out, baby.
Kirk Gibson is walking around the bases and pumping the arm. All right, here are some of our listeners' remarks. At PD Salvage, Pat writes in, Miami, easy, hands down. Here's Mike who writes in at AIVI15H. Mike says at David Baumann 33, ATL is bad, but Miami is by far the worst sports city. Matt at Stovetop _ definitely Miami, the definition of fair weather fans. Brian Joyce 10 writes into the show at David Baumann 33. Atlanta, Miami, Los Angeles in no particular order. We've got Chet who writes in at Chet Castile, St. Pete. Yeah, because of the inability to fill the Trop. Adam writes in at Adam OSGP, Miami, only because Atlanta actually has solid support
They do?
For their Braves.
I disagree.
They didn't in the playoffs last year.
Which is when the games matter.
But the Braves have had good attendance, have they not, over the last 20 years?
Great, but show up to the playoffs when it matters. And by the way, there's numerous examples of places that don't support their teams. Look, Indiana, okay, the basketball capital of the world. NBA near the bottom in attendance this year for the Indiana Pacers, who won their division. That's unacceptable.
Speaking of Indiana, their play-by-play guy actually took some shots at the Miami Heat.
He's a clown.
You don't know.
He's a
Mark
clown.
Boyle.
He's a homer. I don't want to hear him.
Mark said, and this is according to PageQSports.com, we are literally sitting in the crowd here. These losers are leaving. They are flocking to the exits with their team down by 3. This city not only does not deserve this team, they don't deserve any team.
My response is, first of all, look at your own fan base. Let me know when they show up in the regular season. And second of all, hey, people in South Florida got to go to the Clevelander, got to go to the beach. I'm sorry, in Indian. What are you guys doing in Indianapolis? Oh, nothing.
Yeah,
because you're a loser town. Loser.
Oh, Elo. All right, easy, dude. I like Indianapolis. First of all,
you go live there. Have fun doing whatever you can do in Indianapolis, which
Elo's
is nothing.
Yes, listen to him right now.
He's a little agitated. I let him down from Miami. I'm a little. Look. Every city has its own bandwagon fans. Let's not act like Miami's doing. Now I agree with Dan
Le Batard puts it on, and I've heard him say on the Dan Patrick Show, Miami does bandwagon really well.
That I will agree with you. No one, they like the activities with that.
But how do you leave those seats, even in a double-digit game in the second half, with an elimination, backs against the wall?
Sure.
How do you walk out of that game, especially when the tickets are so outrageously priced?
This is the other issue I have with this argument. A lot of those people that buy those expensive seats are not the real fans. They're just the fans that want to be there to be seen. They're there hey, this is the cool party. The real fans can't afford those expensive tickets, honestly. They're either in the Raptors up there in the roof if they're lucky, or they're watching the game at home.
You know what? Speaking of those fans who have those expensive tickets, I have a good friend of mine who lives in Central Florida, went to game 1 of the finals, spent $5,555.55 on 3 tickets. If he wanted to buy 3 more tickets, he could have bought a car. All right, and you talk about they're not the real Miami fans. That's like, you talk about. You're just talking about like the Philomena Tobiases. She was the Miami fan with the bird that we can't even put up here. The bird in the face of Joakim Noah in the opening round against the Chicago Bulls.
By the way, all this criticism of the bandwagon and worst fans, right? Boston, right? The best fans, everybody says is the best fans, right?
Yeah.
You realize that this past year, their streak for sellouts at Fenway ended?
Yes, and that was at the beginning of the season, and the Red Sox have been number 1.
What happened? Why? Oh, because they had a terrible year last year. What a surprise. By the way, there's a lot of empty seats at Yankee Stadium, that new Yankee Stadium behind home plate, too, if I noticed. Well, just throwing that out there.
Because the Yankees tickets are $70 million each. And the Orlando Magic had that long streak in the NBA, and as soon as Dwight Howard left, I believe it was the second regular season game of the season at home, and the Magic's long streak, like 200-plus games of sellouts, way above 200, right? That came to an end. The second game they were without Dwight Howard this season.
But they still drew well, considering they had the worst team in the worst team in the league.
I don't know if I'd say drew well. The numbers were so bloated.
Still, there were still people there. It wasn't like half empty.
What's the worst sports city? Is it Miami?
No, I'm going to say Atlanta. If you can't sell out playoff games, then I'm sorry. You're worse. Miami at least sells out playoff games.
What about Los Angeles? Because Los Angeles is so criticized for being fair weather.
I mean, Miami and Los Angeles are the same. They're relatives. They're the same style, but they support their Lakers. In the playoffs and stuff, they support
the Lakers.
The Dodgers.
Even the Clippers sold well this year.
Right, absolutely. So I would not say LA. I think
the Dodger fans are notorious for showing up in the 4th inning.
Yes, just like Miami is. So they're very similar. So if you're going to rip Miami, you might as well rip Los Angeles because to me they're identical. They're about the same. I think, to me, it's Atlanta because they don't sell out Braves playoff games. They don't go to Hawks games, and they've had a good product. And the Falcons, they kind of jumped on that bandwagon because they've been winning. But when they lose, they don't support the Falcons either. The only team they care about in that state, really, is the Georgia Bulldogs.
Elo, you criticized Tampa Bay. You said that Miami supports their teams more than Tampa Bay. You stand by that?
Yes, from the standpoint of if the Dolphins had the type of team the Bucs did last year, they would not have had as many blackouts that the Bucs did. And the Dolphins play at a bigger stadium. Number two, the Rays have had a great team for the last 5 years.
Right.
I think Miami would have supported it better than the 16,000. They've probably been in the high 20s, not much better. I think that's a whole argument about whether baseball in the state of Florida works or not. But I look, Tampa, the Rays have been a good product. They haven't supported it. In fact, it's gotten worse since the World Series year in 08, inexplicably. I mean, the tickets are very reasonable. The Bucs are not what they were earlier, like they were in the John Gruden days.
55,000 at a game last year was second worst.
Second
in all
worst?
football. Oakland was the only worst.
That's unbelievable to me. Now, to the Tampa's credit, and this is where the hockey support is fantastic.
Yeah.
The Lightning is tremendous.
You got the same, 13,000 season
tremendous.
ticket holders each and every year.
But with the Bucs and the Rays, to me, that has to get better. It has to get better because it's those two teams, especially the Bucs this year with Revis. There's no excuse not to go to games this year for the Bucs,
yeah,
right?
What is it about the state, too? Because Brett writes in at Brosner85, writes in at David Baumann 33, Jacksonville. He's saying bad sports now. But Jacksonville, even despite 2 wins last season, averaged 65,000 fans per game, 10,000 more than the Bucs.
I actually give Jacksonville the nod. They have supported that team. It's a one-town team there.
Yeah, Jacksonville takes a lot of criticism, but the fans show up there.
They do. I think part of the other issue, too, in the state of Florida is I think it's a college football town. I think it's a Florida State.
Sure.
They support those schools. That's
even
their passion.
Even their attendance has been down. Both Florida and Florida State a little bit later.
Yeah, everybody's got their little bandwagon fans.
Something about the state recently.
Yeah, it's called weather. When you step out and it's 90 degrees, it's nice. Other states don't have that luxury. Sorry. I'm sorry we have great weather. There's a reason why everybody wants to move here.
All right, so you're saying there's other things to do.
Yeah.
Than go to sporting events.
Yeah, it's called clubbing. It's called going to the beach. You go to the beach all the time. You're the one that
I am a huge beach fan.
Yeah. You probably enjoy going to the beach more than some of the sporting events.
The beach typically takes part during the day, whereas the games are at night.
Yeah, but you're kind of tired. You don't want to go out to an event after a beach. You want to kind of chill.
Yeah, no, the sun kills me. All right, good stuff. Interesting conversation. Feel free to write to us about it. We're going to get more into this conversation as the week moves on. And Game 7 of the NBA Finals is Thursday night, so you can bet we'll be talking about some of the worst sports cities over the course of the next few days. This is DB Online, an exclusive presentation of Sports Talk Florida for Eric Lopez and the video producer, Jacob Helwig. I'm David Baumann. The David Baumann Show is every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m.